Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the presentations for this session. I would now like to invite the three presenters on stage for the panel discussion, along with Mr. Nikav Shah, Global Head, Distillates and Managing Director, India Energy, Arya Commodities. Finally, a warm welcome to the moderator of the panel discussion, Mr. Anuradha Haraskama, Managing Director of Starlight Shipping.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for staying back. I think to do the justice to the audience, I think first we'll take the questions from the audience for 5 minutes. After that, we can take the views of the panel. And also, I need to thank you, Rohan, for giving me this opportunity to work this expert panel to give the justice to the audience. Floor is open for your questions, please. Any questions on bunkering?
I'm Prem from CWIT. My question is directed at Mr. Zafir. We have been talking about increasing storage capacity in Colombo, but it's my personal experience during the 3 years I served at SLPA that there were a lot of delays suffered by vessels bringing not only bunker fuel but also fuel for local consumption due to lack of berth capacity and also due to the limitation of the pipeline connectivity. So don't you think it is necessary, while we talk about tank capacity improvement, also to have multiple lines connecting to deeper berths to serve larger vessels and also to cater to multiple vessels at the same time to eliminate delays suffered by the vessels today and tomorrow?
Hello, yeah. Thanks, Prem. Yes, I completely agree. That's what I actually mentioned even in my presentation. Infrastructure cannot be built in isolation. There is no point building a tank terminal, increasing tank capacity, if you're going to have problems with the pipelines or the berths. Because the whole point in terms of increasing the tank capacity is so that we can bring larger quantity, larger vessels, and bring the cost down. But if you're going to build the tank capacity and still have the berth restrictions to bring only 15, 20,000 metric ton tankers, the equation is probably not going to work. And with regards to pipelines also, and also we're having, again, that next question in terms of whether you should have multiple berths. Yes, that is very important. Of course, now with the volumes coming down, I think we don't face that problem much. But earlier, about two years ago, 1 in every 3 or 4 vessels that we bring, we used to pay demurrage. And this is valuable foreign exchange that goes out of the country. So we should at least have multiple berths where we can sort of discharge. Of course, the Ports Authority has been good in terms of now prioritizing the new North Pier. But still, I think answering your question, multiple berths is very important.
Thank you, Safir, and thank you, Mr. Prem. Any more questions, please? I think if not, I would like to start with Safir. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Simon, Mr. Manoj, and Safir. To start with, since morning we have been talking about automation, digitalization, importance of everything. So while the terminals are getting ready for that, as an industry, what is the readiness that we have, and as a bunker industry in Sri Lanka, what is in terms of adapting new technology, improving our efficiencies of barges, adding more storage, like we have been talking about the constraint of oil bank for many years. But have you looked at other alternatives such as floating storage, or we are trying to change the model that we operate, like there is an option to operate as an entrepot scheme where the barge becomes a bond with the limited storage that we have. Because obviously with the new fuels coming in, there will be multi-fuel fuels. It's not only low sulfur, but we are talking about ammonia, methanol, and biofuels. And as you said, Maersk is getting all ready to bunker with biofuels. So in terms of all this new future demand, what is our preparation, or what is and also the suggestions that you have to the authorities and the stakeholders to improve this infrastructure?
Lots of questions, but if I take one by one, on the digitalization, yes, we have actually taken few steps. We have, I think, LMS, the company that I represent, we few years ago, because we realized one of the important things for the customer is sitting somewhere else, and the bunkering is happening in a completely different, in location, and they just need to know whether the bunker happened and what quantity was delivered. So we have an SMSing system where as soon as the bunker is delivered, as soon as the vessel goes alongside, there's a notification that goes in. As soon as the bunker is delivered, there's still a notification that goes in. Simon's point in terms of BDN, digitalizing the BDN, that is something that we have in very advanced stages. We have worked that out. The only problem at the moment we have is with regards to connectivity from the point, but that is something that we are also working to try and see how we can digitalize the BDN. Regarding, in terms of the complexities of handling multiple fuels, I understand, I agree with you that I think floating storage is necessary, because that is probably one of the fastest ways of bringing capacity in. That is important. Of course, with ensuring that the necessary safety precautions are taken. And that can be regulated by the government, and you can have floating storage. In terms of, I think, building more and more storage, before we really embark on that journey, there has to be a proper plan, I think, a discussion plan between the private sector and the government to ensure where are we really going with this. Otherwise, with all these fuels coming in, it becomes very, very complex.
Yeah, definitely, that's right, because it has to be a concentrated effort, because we need to understand what is the future demand. And it's not only an issue of the bunkering industry or bunker suppliers, it's an issue of the industry, whereas the terminals, the ship owners, and we all have to work together, because ultimately they are the use of the fuel. So even the terminals, the private terminals operator also should get together, I think. It's a concern of everybody, because if we don't provide proper fuel to their ships coming into our terminals, then there'll be issue. They will have problems. So I think it's an industry issue. Going forward, I think is the best way to work together, lobby with the stakeholders, and try to find solutions rather than working alone. And okay, thank you, Safir, again. And my next question goes to Mr. Manoj Gupta. Very impressive plan in Trincomalee. We are really happy to see the long overdue development taking place in Trincomalee. And as you said, you were very firm on the development and the plan. So I'm just curious of the current forex issues we have in Sri Lanka. How capable is this joint venture to invest and take this project forward, as per the plan?
Thanks, Anu. Your question is absolutely to the point. So we have already worked out what would be the finance required. Say for instance, the first stage that we were talking about is like refurbishing of 10 tanks, laying that 3-kilometer, 2 sets of pipelines, right from the SPM points up to the farther away point of the 10 tanks. Our estimated requirement would be close to about 15 million USD, 15 to 20 million USD in the first stage. And if we were to talk about the second stage wherein we would be focusing on the refurbishment of the leftover of the 51 tanks, that envisages a cash outlay of almost close to about 48 to 50 million USD. So while you are absolutely right, Forex today is a area of the biggest concern. Like, yeah, we know how we are arranging the LCs for the import of the white shipments. Like, we get three shipments every 2 months. So how difficult it is. But then, trust me, I don't have a straightaway answer to you right now, but then we are very positive, very positive in the sense that the way the things are going forward, the way all the initial settlements, discussions, staff levels, agreements, all those things have been done, believing that this IMF thing gets settled down by the coming month of January or so, right? Thereafter, like, things should start getting improved. Like, we should be having support from the international agencies, the World Bank, the ADBs, the remittances, have already started going up, like month after month. We are all reading, the figures have been going up by 60, 70 million. And since this is a project of strategic nature, so I don't see any reason why we do not get the support from the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, who has been very, very supportive, the entire team of CBSL, who have been very supportive, having realized what scarcity of fuel can create in the country, like those 7-8 months that we have all gone through. So creation of a facility of strategic importance and benefits to everyone around. I'm sure this 15 to 20 million USD is not a big amount that we are asking for. In fact, just for information, a simple shipment costs us around 35 million USD, a simple white oil shipment. So not a very big amount. It's basically how the things get coordinated. I mean, like the conviction to deliver has to be there, and believing in that, I'm very confident that this is the right time when things will fall in place, and maybe in the year or so from now, we would have the first stage of Trincomalee absolutely fully operational and available for everyone around.
Great to hear that, Mr. Manoj. One small question actually. Can the users of bunker fuel the bunker suppliers in Colombo use your tanks for storage when that is ready? Because there are so many other bunker licenses also issued by the ministry. I don't think they have the chance of starting bunkering in Colombo. They might be interested in knowing.
So when it comes to availing the storage facility at Trincomalee by the bunker suppliers, I mean, we are open to all. I mean, obviously the decisions have to be taken. I'm not the sole authority to comment on that, but yes, unanimously the calls can be taken by the board. Ultimately, generating revenue for the sustenance of TPTL, the joint venture, is also an important area of concern. And what better than this, if at all this facility can be extended to the bunker suppliers? There is no reason why it should not be extended.
Okay, thank you. I think they would like to explore that. My next question is to Simon. Simon, you know the Sri Lankan context now. What advice can you give us from your experience learning process in Singapore with regard to digitalization, using of mass flow meters, and also introducing alternative fuels? If you can give us a short answer, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Basically, I've been hearing from what of the rest of my fellow speakers and panelists has spoken. I kind of agree with quite a fair bit of stuff that they have mentioned. Firstly, Sri Lanka Bunker Association need to be set up because you must have a unified voice with regards to many things, not only bunkers, terminaling, you know, and all that. So how are we going to develop the infrastructure? How are we going to go into alternative fuel? Because the industry people knows better than the government how they want to utilize the infrastructure, right? I mean, agencies may know something, but the best person with the best knowledge is still the industry itself. So, Bunker Association is very, very key. Like what's happening, okay, I mean, again, I bring it back to Singapore. You know, we have the association that is looking after the bunker supply chain. Now, every time there's a committee meeting, right, the Port Authority will sit in to listen to what their comment is on certain policies, right, even the processes, okay, what the supply industry needs. Okay, we also have a technical committee to look at all the needs and the standards on compliance. Okay, so before we introduce mass flow meters, Singapore has a bad reputation. But what happened? We used mass in 2009. We decided to say, look, the way forward for a bunker supplier to build trust with bunker buyers, with their customers. Because in oil, always remember, we talk about trust, how we build that trust. So once you build that trust, the customer will be there for long term and they'll keep coming back to you. So the way forward is to assure quantity delivery, and that we set up a standard whereby these standards take control from loading to delivery using mass flow meter. And it actually take away a lot of quantity dispute, right? Last time quantity dispute can be about 50 tons, even up to 100 overtons. But after the mass flow meter comes in, the dispute, 2 tons, 3 tons, people complain, you know. So when you talk about oil, 2-3 tons out of even a 500 tons delivery, it's nothing. Because why? Your clinkages on your tanks and all that, right? Also does have some, or even some of the, you know, the pipelines that, you know, when you deliver to the vessel, the oil that's in the pipeline is stuck there. You do not know how many tons is inside, you know. So 2-3 tons is nothing, you see. So you must have a standard. Then you regulate the mass flow meter, complete system. Now Rotterdam is has just announced they want to follow this mass flow metering, and also to set up a bunker system that uses a mass flow meter. Okay, so they are also engaging with my site here, I mean in Singapore, and the Harbour Master is coming down to see us in January or February to discuss further on the implementation of mass flow meter. So that is something they need to build the trust within the supplier and the buyer. So that's one way to move forward. Even on the terminal side, terminal also wants to ensure that proper quantity is being accounted for. So terminal, Shell, we had the biggest issue. So now they are looking at mass flow meter. Vopak in Singapore already has a mass flow meter installed at the terminal to measure quantity being delivered to the bunker tankers. Or even sometimes they use it for incoming cargo. Because in Singapore, mass flow meter is not one direction flow, it's dual direction flow. You can load, you can discharge. Right? So there are standards for orders, and that's why terminal are also starting to look at it really in Singapore. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Simon. My final question goes to Mr. Nikav Shah. We'd like to hear the preparation of Indian ports and the bunker suppliers with regard to future fuels. Nikav, if you could share with us.
It's working?
Yeah.
See, India is going to be ready, I guess, by 2030 with the product at least. Like in terms of low sulfur fuel oil, we were ready. A lot of investment is being committed by national oil companies, and then even people like Adani and Total JV, they have committed a huge investment to produce green ammonia and green hydrogen. But the most important part is, as you said, you know, this transition like from coal to oil, it was so difficult. I guess from HSFO to VLSFO, it wasn't that difficult, but still we took long, maybe 5 years by delaying it to implement IMO 2020 in terms of barges, storages, but it was black oil to black oil. So I guess it wasn't a very big challenge, but as all the presenters have mentioned about it, the key is going to be infrastructure, like when you're talking about the terminals or the barges, or as Simon mentioned, the manpower who's going to handle it, you know, and like typically for product like ammonia, you need cryogenic storage and all that. We had few random LNG supplies also, so India is geared with LNG supplies as well. We have Petronet LNG, Shell, and then we have H Energy, couple of other players coming up with FSRU and all that, because they all getting connected to the local grid, and the distribution, it goes into city distribution. There is a mobile tanker also, road tanker also developed for the small LNG deliveries and all that. So the place where you have FSRU or LNG storage. I mean, we are not restricted to supply in those places, but I guess to a distance of 500, 600 kilometers, we can even move product to the other ports, LNG, in small lots. But I guess more or less India will or should be ready with the product, but it all depends on the infrastructure. Like today, VLSFO, the amount of VLSFO which we produce is not being supplied in bunkers because of the limitation on the infrastructure, availability of barges and storage. So that still is going to remain the key. So I have my own doubts. Maybe by 2030 we should be able to really do it or no, not only here. Likewise, in Middle East, maybe Saudi Aramco is working on producing the product, but I haven't seen anybody in Fujairah talking about storing methanol or ammonia and start doing the bunker supplies.
Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
Nikam. Yeah, I think you being a supplier, of course, you would like to supply more.
Fossil
fuels,
fuel.
obviously.
I just out of curiosity, I have one question which these two gentlemen are talking about, Colombo and Trincomalee. Out of curiosity, I just want to understand how the authority is taking call on why the Trincomalee is already way forward on the development of this terminal in Colombo. Since I have been supplying fuel, I guess it's more than 10 years, and I saw in your slide that in 17, 18 and 18, 19 you had major quantities being supplied here, and luckily I was probably holding 70% market share in those days supplying fuel into Colombo. So Colombo is a major area of interest. I mean, I just would like to know if you can throw some light on that. Seeing why Trinco is at much advanced stage and Colombo lagging behind on developing some more infra.
Hello. Like, what makes Trinco in a slightly more advanced stage? Consequent to the execution of the lease deed on 6th of January 2022, consequent to the settlement of all those long pending old issues, right? So there is a lot of optimism, lot of confidence. Trust me, Nikarv, like what I was talking about is being regularly, the regular updates of this are taken by no less than secretary in the presidential secretariat. I mean, regular updates are being provided to him, and whatever bottlenecks that we get into, I mean, it's not like it's absolutely like an activity where there won't be any kind of disturbances or differences of opinions or obstacles and all. But the very fact that I mentioned, that the monitoring is being done at that level. Obviously, like now we have two state ministers in the country, other than the Honorable Minister of Power and Energy, and one of them is actually spearheading the development at Trincomalee. So this all goes to prove that it is an area of concern. A lot of focus is there. All the tenders and all are being placed, are being issued on time. I mean, in a nutshell, a lot of faith prevails. There is no reason why we should not be living up to the expectations of everyone all around. And as far as Colombo is concerned, if I could just add, Zafir, with the due permission, I mean, there are talks. Already I saw a tender just a short while back regarding the creation of additional tankage for the purpose of bunkering, for which I'm very confident there would be many prospective agencies that would be coming forward to undertake that kind of a project. Probably it is 2 tanks of 12,000 tons each. So that would be an additional storage facility. Once it comes up, the expected time period of completion is about 2 years. So that is once again very promising as far as Colombo's storage facility is concerned.
Thank you for that insight. Thank you, gentlemen, again for sharing your expertise, knowledge, and also as a take-home, I think all of us will agree that it's a responsibility of all of us. And I think we all should get together as a bunker industry and also as a shipping industry, the terminals, ship operators and everybody, and work together with all the stakeholders to improve the facilities, the infrastructure, and also introduce new technology to industry, and also work along with the industry expert like Mr. Sali Vikramasuriya, Mr. Ramesh Davis, and there are so many experts in this country, and we'll get the support and advice of those people also, and develop this industry for the benefit of the country. Once again, thank you very much for veganized audience, and Rohan will, I think, announce the rest of the proceeds. Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.